Welcome, welcome, welcome. What is up, world? You are in tune to the Know It All podcast, and you got your usual suspects here. My man, Big G. What's going on with you, Big G?
What's happening to the Know-It-All crews, man? I'm just trying to recover from that horrible All-Star Saturday dunk contest we saw. Oh my goodness.
Woo! Well, we're definitely gonna get into that. It wasn't a great weekend for the All Star NBA weekend as well. Tate, what's happening, man? What's popping? We got you here, man. What's good?
What's up, man? Not too much, man. Just to piggyback off what Big G is talking about, man. My Cleveland Cavs represented so far in All Star Weekend. You got the team winning the game Friday night, the Rising Star Challenge.
Yeah.
Evan Mobley and Okoro. You got them winning the Skills Challenge last night with Mobley, Allen, and Darius Garland. And then tonight, man, I'm gonna go ahead and make a big hot burner take like Big G would do and say Darius Garland going to All-Star Game MVP. How you like
Oh
that?
my God!
And
Oh
it's
my
in
God!
Cleveland. And it's in Cleveland. There you go.
We're gonna leave this for the meat of the show because really this is a big burner. That's a big burner. But no, we have a guest with us today, and we're definitely gonna explore more after the intro. We have Dr. Daniel G. Kelly, PhD. Definitely, he is the academic director and graduates program at NYU School of Professional Studies. Wow, that's a lot. And being at NYU and the title, that's a whole lot. Definitely, we're honored to have you with us on the show today. And how are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show. Really excited to get into the topics and just looking forward to having a good time. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. If you notice, he got that Miami of Ohio gear on. We're going to definitely get into that here in just a minute as well. But if you like the content that you're hearing, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you smash that subscribe button on YouTube. So every time that we go live, you can catch us here, man. But before we get into that, we are going to definitely get into this. And once again, you are tuned to the Know It All podcast. I am the champion Know It All. Tate maybe Know It All number A, B, something like that. And G is the last Know It All here present. Definitely, we are going to wrap in for a taste, and I want to get it in with Daniel. Daniel, man, if you could, now I've given you your formal introduction, but if you could just kind of give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. I would say in my role as the academic director for graduate programs at the Preston Roberts Institute for Global Sport, I run the curriculum for the graduate programs. And so I'm in charge of the hiring of the faculty, mainly the adjuncts who are industry professionals. And, we designed a curriculum to prepare students for the field. But more importantly than just a regular sport management degree, we're focusing a lot on the international and global aspects. And so we have partnerships overseas with the FIFA World Cup, with the National Football League, with the NBA, both here and in Africa. It's just a lot of opportunities for students to really get to maximize the global landscape. And one of my favorite terms is becoming global citizens. And that's what we try to do. We try to make sure that as they move out into the sports world, that they are looking at it from a cultural agility and having a basic foundation understanding of what they can do to make the world a better place.
Cultural agility. I love it. I love it. Definitely some great words there. And listen, man, we had a topic that we spoke about, and that's near and dear to your heart as well. I see that you've actually spoke about this once before, and I wanted to really just get a little deeper into the numbers and the conversation. And that conversation was African American representation in the coaching, as far as coaches in the NFL, whether it be head coaches or assistant coaches. Let's talk and the NBA. Let's kind of talk about that. And I want to wrap a taste. I know in our pre-meeting you had spoken. You said that you were looking that we would kind of be surprised when we looked at the raw numbers, and definitely let's get into that. And also, I would like to explore, the actual laws that we talk about when we're talking about the Rooney Rules and those things. So talk to me about that a little bit. Let's unpack that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite topics is the Rooney Rule. So I've been studying this for 20 years, and I'm really proud that I was kind of one at the forefront. This was my dissertation topic, and so my doctoral degree was based on hiring resources and the upward mobility of African Americans in sport, particularly professional sports like the NBA and the NFL. In its format, the NFL Rooney Rule is really a opportunity-based system, and by opportunity-based, I want to be very clear about the specifics of it. Like it's not really seeking to get to a certain number or a quota. It's seeking to provide opportunities. And the opportunity is that every time a open head coach position was available, that a minority candidate should have a chance to interview for it. And what that was going to do was it was going to bring to the forefront minority candidates. And even if they did not get the job, that hiring manager would at least know that they were in the pipeline or that they were a possibility. Because at the time, a lot of NFL owners were saying they didn't know where the talent was. And so the Rooney Rule was to provide them with access to the talent. Now, 20 years later, let's be honest, the numbers haven't increased. But at one point, they have been as high as like 7 or 8 coaches that were hired. And so what that does tell me is that in its purest form, for a time, it was working. But maybe the parameters are changing now. As you see, the league is getting younger. The coaches are getting younger. Sean McVay, was he 35, 36? Zach Taylor, these guys are like 37, 38. They're so young, and they're getting these amazing opportunities to lead franchises. And, they're not technically going through the same pipeline that the minority coaches were going through. And so it seems as though the rules are changing, but no one has told the minority coaches. And so I think, the Rooney Rule in its current form for an opportunity-based system just may not be the right avenue to go down this pipeline. That doesn't mean that there isn't another opportunity out there. It just means that this one just may be outdated.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, as we grow, rules and regulations should grow. That's why they have the collective bargaining agreements. And you notice how those change over the years, right? They never just, stay the same or blanket things. Now, G, you had an interesting question earlier that you wanted to kind of direct towards Daniel. Talk to me about that, man.
Yeah. So I piggybacking off of some of the things you just said concerning the hiring process or practice in the NFL. There's a current writer out that I've been reading a lot of information on lately. Her name is Tara Frank, and she talks about glass cliff hirings that go on across not just in sports, but across all different practices in the United States of America. And it ties directly to that DE&I or inclusionary hiring practices that go on. Basically, glass cliff is you promote a Black person in a role where the company doesn't expect and or believe that the person can be successful. And I think that, in my opinion, that the NFL has moved to that as far as the Rooney practices is concerned. So I wanted you to speak to the fact of if you have heard about glass cliffs hirings, and then what does that look like moving forward to change the culture of the hiring process in the NFL?
The glass cliff hiring phenomenon is actually something that I uncovered during my dissertation process as well. So I would have to agree with Tara Frank. That's definitely a possible scenario. For the NFL, what I think is really happening is that when they're thinking about tanking or they're thinking about positioning themselves for the future, they're more willing to entertain giving an opportunity to a minority coach. But then it backfires because the minority coach, even with the lessened resources and the lessened emphasis on winning, they still win. And then what do you? And so, like a David Culley this past season, who was brought into a no-win situation in Houston, all of a sudden they exceed expectations. He's able to keep the ship from falling apart. And, they won 4 games the year before, and they were expected to win like 1 or 2 games or 0 games this season. They won 4 more games. And so what it shows is that even with a terrible situation where he wasn't given, all the resources to succeed, he still found a way to at least match the season beforehand, which in the NFL, you can go from 4 wins to 11 wins to the Super Bowl, as Zach Taylor has shown you. So, just being able to get an opportunity to build and to win is the key. And I think that's where the issue is. So from my research, from my doctoral studies, what we were uncovering was that a lot of minority candidates are getting that first opportunity, and it comes with 0 resources. And then once they lose in that first opportunity with the short leash, then all of a sudden they are not given a second opportunity, not given a chance to redeem themselves. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing with the Brian Flores situation, where he got his first opportunity. He got the opportunity with the Miami Dolphins, and he was winning. He took a situation where there was a lot of volatility with the roster, and he was able to go from a losing season to back-to-back winning seasons, yet he was fired.
Right.
And of course, he's in the hiring cycle, and he thinks he has a great opportunity for a rebound job at the New York Giants, and of course, it didn't work out for him. And so, there could be a lot of disappointment, a lot of emphasis on it. But according to my research, what it was saying was that they weren't getting that second opportunity. And so I think Brian Flores, of course, he was recently hired as the special defensive assistant, linebackers coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so, that really kind of leans into Mike Tomlin with kind of a Mike Tomlin flex, if you think about it, because it's showing that Mike Tomlin is kind of saying, well, I'm here 15 years, and even though this guy is potentially going to be in the midst of a lawsuit against the league, we're going to hire him. And let's not get it twisted. The Rooney Rule originated with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Absolutely.
All right. That's a very big deal. And Mike Tomlin, of course, is their first minority hire, and Pittsburgh Steelers stay loyal. He's been there 15 years, won a Super Bowl. They have had wild success where he has never had a losing season, right?
Right, correct. Never.
This is a big situation with him bringing on Brian Flores, but we'll get to that later on.
So, what you just said, and I want to point this out, because you did say that there were minority hires in the NFL, and if it was pointed out to me that a couple of years back there were like 4 at the same time, 4 or 5 at the same time. But what you're saying is that they're getting the opportunity. They're just not getting the second repeat or the chance that anyone else is getting after their initial stint in the NFL.
Yeah, because I think with any job, usually once you get into the inner circle, you're usually like golden. Like you get into the NBA, and you're all of a sudden now you see the coaches will switch teams. Like Doc Rivers, for example, he'll be at Boston, then he'll be at the Clippers, and then of course now he's in Philly. You get other opportunities because you have been verified by one of the franchises as being, a capable coach. But according to my research, it's showing that African Americans are not getting that second opportunity. It's almost like they got one chance to succeed, and then they're taking these opportunities that just aren't great. They're taking the opportunities where they're just not getting the resources that they need to win, and then they're out. And so you have a lot of coaches who are kind of gun shy about interviewing or even putting themselves in a position to get these opportunities, and because they're getting the ones that no one wants. So I think it's pretty tough, because this coaching cycle I was really excited for. I thought there was going to be at least 3 or 4 minority hires, and there were 2. So I'll definitely at least agree to that. I mean, I think Mike Daniels is biracial, and then of course Lovie Smith is African American man. So.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, G. You had a follow up.
Well, I just wanted to just tie into that, because some of the things that I read are common practices that I've seen just in my lifespan or my lifetime as being an employee for different corporations or agencies. You have that unimportant hire or the impossible hire or the controversial hire, and in all aspects, they're expected to be heroes. And when they fail, then they're the scapegoat based on, well, they wasn't the right fit, or they wasn't the right person, or there's just a way to dump or download their inability to win or be successful. And a lot of times Black people minorities take on that role. And I think it's just really, 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 really unfair. And it's a bias that we see that goes on across all hiring practices, So I know that to be true, but then to now see it played out and, in 2022 in the United States of America, right in front of us in a primetime sport, which is the NFL, is sort of disheartening because like you, Mr. Daniel, I was looking forward to like Byron Leftwich and Eric Bieniemy getting opportunities to become head coaches, and then they didn't. And I was like, man, is this all about that glass cliff hiring thing that I've been reading about for the last, year or so? And it points to me like it is,
So, Tate, and you, I know that we were talking behind the scenes, and you had a couple of things that you wanted to add and point out in the conversation. Talk to me. What are one of the things that you're hearing in this whole NFL coaching carousel?
Well, I'm gonna rewind a little bit and touch on a little bit what each and every one of you said. First of all, the Rooney Rule. It's set up to it's good in its intent, but it's flawed in its practice, right? Yeah. So the rule is intended to get minority candidates looked at. You know what I mean? Not like affirmative action where a certain percentage has to be of the workforce, of the hires have to be this. It's just intended to get these people in front of the people that make the decisions about coaching decisions. And for a while, we know Arshell was our first African American coach back in 1989 at the time the Los Angeles Raiders. They were in Los Angeles at the time. So we go back then, and over time we had a few here and there. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't know if Mike Tomlin, I believe he was probably, I don't know if it was a rule at the time in 2007, but because the Rooneys are the family that runs and owns the Pittsburgh Steelers, he got a chance. At the time, they thought Russ Grimm was going to be the coach after Bill Cowher. Yeah, and Mike Tomlin got in front of the organization, those that be, and wowed him and got his opportunity and has taken it and ran with it for 15 seasons, no losing seasons. Now, to shout out the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can see from my background, that is my team, my professional sports franchise, as far as football goes. They were the first to hire an African-American assistant. His name was Lowell Perry. Tony Dungy got his start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bill Nunn was one of the first Black GM. I don't know if his official title was general manager, but he's one of the first guys to start talent mining the HBCUs. Yeah. And, the Pittsburgh Steelers are steeped in just in minority equity. So I want to shout them out. Another thing, currently, I did like Daniel and Big G said, I thought this cycle we're going to see quite a bit of African American hires as far as head coaches. Yeah. And when Mike Flores got fired, I thought good for him. Not good that he got fired, but he's going to get away from Miami and definitely get hired at one of these 9 openings, I believe that there was this year. Yeah, and have a better team. So it does. I mean, with his credentials, I mean, he spent 10 years under Bill Belichick. Yeah, well, 14 years with the Patriot organization. He never was a coordinator, but he went to Miami after being a linebacker coach for Belichick for a long time, and probably co-defensive coordinator with Matt Patricia, and he showed out. I mean, Miami hadn't had back-to-back winning seasons since like 2002, 2003 before Flores just did it.
Right. Yeah.
So before he just did it these past 2 years. And he gets rewarded for that by getting fired. And it's like you guys were saying, I mean, he just outperformed what he was supposed to do. It could have always been the play. They probably expected him to fail. Ross, whatever his first name is, the owner in Miami, expect him to fail so then he could be the scapegoat. They could get some high round draft picks because they were supposed to stink the past few years, and then bring in the white coach on the white horse to save everything.
Right.
And that's just the cycle of how this thing has been going. Now today in the NFL we have 32 franchises, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
We have two and a half African American coaches.
Yeah, correct.
2.5. If that's how they want to break it down. 8% of the coaches in the NFL of a league where I believe like 72% of the players are African American, 8% of the coaches are African American.
Yes.
Contrastly, in the NBA, we have 30 franchises, and I believe seven African American coaches, which is like about 24% of the coaches.
Right.
So I would ask Daniel. I guess he kind of touched on it, the disparity, like franchises give coaches affirmation and credibility once they've been there and left to move on to the next job. So I don't know. It's a whole lot to unpack, but those are just some of the things I wanted to just comment on as far as where we are to this point.
And Dr. Daniel, can you comment on what Tate just brought to the table? Because honestly, I don't want. And then here's the other thing. Can you comment on that? But my question to you would be: do we feel like the heart of it is racism, or do we feel like it's coaching qualifications?
Right.
Let's talk about that.
I'm going to take door number 3. I'm going to take that that the NFL league office led by Roger Goodell has definitely put the resources in place. I think, they have worked with minority candidates. They've worked with an external job placement firm to put together training and an actual GM profile kit for how to identify talent. I think the league office has, overall the NFL is at a B and a B+ for racial hiring according to the race and gender scorecard. So I definitely want to say that the race card, it really doesn't really fit because the resources are there, the opportunities are there. It just has to have time to trickle through the system. And you're probably looking at me crazy and saying it's been 20 years, and I agree. But I still stand by the statement that I think the Rooney Rule just may not be in its current format the most effective, and that there are better resources around. Roger Goodell has done a lot of work with the Fritz Pollard Alliance. He's done a ton of work with, the NFL Football Administration team to bring together a diverse workforce. There's been a lot of top-level C-suite hires, like Damani Leach, who is the Chief International Officer, Daisha Smith, who's the Chief Administrative Officer. We have a lot of top-tier minority candidates who are leading the league's business. And so, on the league side, this is happening. And so what we're looking forward to is that on the high-profile television side, we want to see this same diversity. And so I think what we're not seeing, of course, you're not seeing the big announcements about the hiring of like who in the C-suite in the NFL is now minority voices, but it's there and it's happening. Right. It's happening to a very high level. And that's, the people who I'm directly corresponding with and working with and, having an understanding of what they are seeing on the inside. And so when it's what's trickling down to what we see on television, I think that's what everybody wants to see. They want to see the coaches because we know that 70% of the league is African-American. And so, when you're not seeing the coaches, a coaching pipeline that is directly correlating to representation, then we're saying, okay, what's not working here? But the league is trying to address it. The league is educating the owners on, here are profiles and what you should be expecting to see from the talent that's coming down the pipeline, headlined by a Byron Leftwich, headlined by a Eric Bieniemy, this top-tier talent that has not only won Super Bowls as the offensive and defensive coordinators, but also have been around and paid their dues. And so the question is that after this effort, what next? Like now that they're educating the owners, and so this whole cycle goes by and it was only two minority hires. What about the next cycle? If there's 0 minority hires, then it's like, who do we blame? And I think we're kind of at a point now where, there should be an increase. There should be.
Right.
And Lashonda said that these coaches are exceeding with chicken wire and shoestring. They're holding it together barely with not enough resources to be able to do so. And then she also said this. She said, because this phenomenon bleeds over into other industries, what suggestions can you provide support effective inclusive hiring practices and exclusive to that are not exclusive to the Rooney Rule?
Yeah. That's a fantastic viewpoint. It's a very good point. And it kind of alludes back to my statement from earlier where they're not getting the best opportunities for the first opportunity. So I think somebody like a Byron Leftwich, who rumor is that he turned down Jacksonville for their head coaching job because the resources weren't right and this wasn't the right timing, or they weren't willing to commit to him what he needed to be successful. And so I think being selective with the opportunities, because normally Jacksonville would have been a homecoming for Byron Leftwich. I mean, he played there. He's had the community. He's done really well for that franchise. And so just looking at it from a standpoint of where the opportunities are and, being selective and understanding where it's going to lead you in the future is vitally important. I think also, when it comes to it trickling over into industry, I still stand by the NFL. I think if you look at their race and gender scorecard, if you look at the hiring practices, the league has embraced it. Let's not forget, 2 years ago, during the summer of 2020, after George Floyd's, tragic ending, tragic death. I want to make sure I give him the proper credence. The NFL pledged $250 million over 10 years towards battling systemic racism, police reform, and education reform.
Right.
That's a serious commitment. And they have put the people in place with the proper budgets to address systemic racism. And I think, it's times like this where I'm like, why aren't we talking more about what has been done? Yes, the coaching numbers are one aspect of it. But if you look at the total picture, you'll see that the effort is there and they have made monumental strides in the right direction. And I just feel like eventually it's going to get to a point where you'll see representation across the board.
Kevin, you had a question you wanted to ask?
I don't know if it was a question, but I agree with Daniel. I mean, just all these different initiatives that the NFL has taken over and the hiring that they do in the upper echelon of the NFL office. I mean, all those things are fantastic, and they are very inclusionary. Echelon of the NFL office. I got some feedback, but the thing is, what we're questioning, and two totally separate things, is the coaching practices. And I think we, as fans and the people outside onlookers, have to remember each of those decisions are typically exclusively made by white NFL owners, old white NFL owners. So where there's that disparity, is kind of understandable. I mean, it's not fair, it's not inclusive to those coaches that are deserving. If we think about it, the past 2 or 3 Super Bowls winners, we had the Kansas City Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator, right?
Yep.
We had Tampa Bay, Byron Leftwich, offensive coordinator, Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator. This year, the Rams, Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator. He's been a coach before. Will he get another opportunity? Brandon Staley was defensive coordinator for 1 year last year for the Rams. White candidate. They didn't win the Super Bowl last year. I don't think they did well. They might have lost the first or second playoff game, but he got a job this year with the Chargers after just 1 year being a defensive coordinator. So I think the disparity in hiring practices are kind of finger pointed at the owners for what they're doing.
And like Daniel said, though, Tate, I mean, Daniel made a point. He's standing with the NFL on the scorecard. And basically, hey, I mean, men lie, numbers, women lie, numbers don't. I mean, we can say.
Yeah, but I was agreeing with him. I'm just saying, the NFL as an organization is doing an excellent job. But we have to remember the coaches are hired by the individual owners of all these 32 franchises.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Right. I got something I wanted to ask Dr. Daniel too, because, leverage is privilege. A lot of folks don't understand and know that, but leverage is privilege, so why do you see such a difference in the NBA in the comparison to the NFL? The NBA just this last cycle not only hired a bunch of minority or African-American coaches, they also hired a bunch of African-American and minority GMs. Mark Eversley, Calvin Booth, Troy Weaver, they all got opportunities to be GMs, which are critical, pivotal positions, because these are the folks that hire broad paint strokes of minorities throughout the organization, right? So, and then also you have some level of Black ownership or Black presidents or minority presidents in the NBA versus what you see in NFL.
Kobe Altman, baby, Cleveland Cavaliers.
Correct. And so I love the numbers and I love the scorecard, but I don't understand why. Maybe it's just because me as a person, I'm more conscious of what goes on in the NBA versus what I see in the NFL. But it seems like that the NBA just goes above and beyond. And maybe that has something to do with it being a global game, and the culture of the NBA is more global versus the NFL is more like United States. So maybe it's just that, but I know in the NBA, it seems to appear as if that there are more minorities getting opportunities, and there are individuals who are leveraging their privilege and giving people opportunities to get in those positions that are pivotal. And I want to know if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, you make a very fantastic point. I mean, the NBA has definitely been a trendsetter when it comes to racial hiring, which is evidenced by their race and gender scorecard grade as well. But when it comes to the NFL, I think we have to remember their position. It's like, when it comes to business practices, you have a choice. You have a choice when it comes to where you want to focus your efforts. You have a choice on, what kind of impact you want to have on a community and society. So for argument's sake, let's say that the NFL decided to be the U.S., the top sports league in the U.S. That's where all the resources went. That's where all the focus was. And the NBA decided to invest globally, which is, of course, why they have NBA Africa. That's why they have the Basketball Without Borders program. They have all their international exchange programs in China, Japan, etc. And that's where they have extended their global footprint. And so they seek to bring in coaches, GMs, and players internationally that are going to build the global presence of the NBA. Now, the NFL has succeeded in their goal of being the U.S. leader in sports. And now that they're making efforts to become the global leader in sports, now the market is demanding, as you pointed out, a need for more diversification, a need for more inclusion. And so I think inherently, to answer your question, the NBA has kind of set the bar of expectations for inclusivity and diversity. And now the NFL, which I know that they have plans to be a global leader now, they're going to have to follow that benchmark. They're going to have to increase the diversity of partners, the diversity of constituents, and diversity of hiring, and really embrace it. And to your point, the coaches are the face of the franchise more so than the owner, and thus, they're going to have to embrace that change as well.
Cowboys. Jerry, he ain't giving that up. Jerry ain't giving that one up. He don't care who you put in that seat. He ain't giving that one up. He the face.
Yeah, Jerry Jones he's quite smart though. I mean, he's definitely a good businessman. I give him that.
Definitely a great businessman. Don't know how good of a GM he is. I wish he would move out of the way. But anyway, so as we're talking, and I wonder if you know I'm a Cowboy fan. But as we're talking about this whole thing, man, I think, and before we actually put a bow on the topic, what do you think that we could do better? What do you think that could be done better and actually not resolve? Because I don't know if you can resolve it in 2-3 years, but what can we do as far as the NFL to even, because they're doing a good job as far as the card is concerned, but in public perception, what can they do to kind of appease public perception of what's going on as far as coaches hiring in the NFL?
This is a great question. I'm glad you teed it up for me like this. When it comes to activism, the problem is that people think activism is only for that event, whether it be like a presidential election or it's like midterms for politics. Activism is 24/7. It's 365. It's happening all the time, and I think that's the issue. We only care about the hiring or the lack of minority coaches as head coaches in the NFL on Bloody Monday, which is the Monday after the final regular season game before the playoffs start. We only care about it on Monday, and the rest of the year, no one talks about it until we wake up on Bloody Monday and we're like, oh my God, there's only one coach left, and it's Mike Tomlin. And then we have this argument and the conversations until they hired the next coach was a minority, which was Mike McDaniel. And then, of course, when Lovie Smith got hired, then it's like, okay, now we have three. And so in addition to, of course, Ron Rivera and Robert Saleh. So now we're at, I think, five minority coaches. And so, then it becomes, okay, this is where we are. And then we forget about it. It disappears. What Brian Flores has done is he's extending the conversation because of his lawsuit. But what we need with activism and what we can do is continue to make this a conversation that doesn't die.
Right.
It has to continue to be in the forefront of advertisers. It has to be close to where the money, when consumers are spending their dollars, and you know how big cancel culture is, it has to be at the forefront of when purchase decisions are being made. It has to be like, hey, why hasn't the NFL done more? Or why are the leagues being held accountable? And so I think that's where we have to continue the conversation. It can't just be only one time a year in January we're talking about this, and then the rest of the time we're talking about other things. Activism has to be continuous. This has to be something that is at the forefront of all conversations moving forward.
Right.
I like that. I like that for real. G, you had another question?
No, I mean, that was actually what I was going to talk about is like, it just can't be like a reactionary point to emphasize that, there needs to be diversity, equity, and inclusion during all practices at all time, versus just like you said, doing a knee-jerk reaction of, oh my God, that they fired this one and they fired that one and they didn't give this one an opportunity. I mean, the bottom line is this, is that sports is culture and culture is sports. So I think many times the reflection of what's going on in the United States of America is a direct reflect on what's happening in sports. And so I think right now, especially over the last several years with the way that things have changed from a socioeconomic standpoint to some of the different things that you've seen in politics to just the climate of our culture throughout the United States of America, it is time that we move forward with giving people opportunity based on the content of their character versus going away from the fact of, oh man, well, this person should get it because he's tied to this one. Or, me and Tate talked about this the other day about the 6 degrees of separation and how when you start talking about coaching trees and how people are all tied to each other, you have to start seeing minorities tied into those trees, because the issue is that not just the world, but America is browning. There's the phenomenon that's happening of the browning of the United States of America. And so if that's the case, you have to start seeing those individuals in place to make a broader impact to move forward as far as the pendulum to making equity a real thing versus it just being a concept or an idea.
Hey, so real quick, Dr. Daniel, before I get in there, just kind of, I want to pong off that. I want to say something and kind of put a caveat in here. If you look at high school coaches, that's happening, right? That coaching tree that you spoke about. If you look at there's the Duncanville coach in football. If you look at him, he's got so many branches. Cedar Hill, DeSoto. He got so many branches of coaches that came from his coaching staff that got head coaching jobs. That's high school. So then when you look, those coaches are now graduating up, going to college. Another thing I just kind of want to put on here is I think we have to do a better job of putting ourselves in these positions as well. You know what I'm saying? Putting ourselves in a position to be able to take the reins of the ship and do those things. Am I saying that we're not? No, I'm saying that there are some of us that are, but I think if there were more of us that were up to speed and was ready to go, that it would be plug and play versus, scrambling, trying to find somebody. But
I agree with you 100%, but I do want to make one quick point, then then I want to hear your response. So what about Brian Flores then? He joined the perfect coaching tree, Bill Belichick.
Right.
He paid his dues, and he still didn't work out for him. I mean, I would be devastated too. So I mean, just want to put that out there. He joined the perfect one, Bill Belichick. You know, the Patriot way, right? I mean, he joined the perfect one, and he still was out there like, oh wait, I didn't mean to send this message to you. I meant to Brian Dable, not Brian Flores.
Right,
like,
right. And he was successful. He was successful in the coach. That's the worst part about it. I could see if he had gotten a position and stunk. But he was successful. He won.
And Josh McDaniels off to his second chance right now.
And he's horrible. His overall coaching record, he's like under 40%.
I wanted before Ma put a bow on it, man. I want to just touch on what G said. I think the macro culture in society, just the workforce in the United States as a whole, is doing better than the NFL in the micro, as far as hiring practice. Not the NFL, but in regards to coaching.
Yeah,
you know, when we're talking about that.
Yeah.
I also think that what else was I going to say? Anyway, far as black coaching trees go, African American head coaches with coaching trees, I believe Mike Tomlin, coming from Tony Dungy, is really the only one that we can even speak of. Right?
Right.
Do y'all know another one?
No, I don't. I was thinking about before we got on air.
I absolutely don't. Yeah,
I couldn't remember one.
Yeah, we have a comment. B-Dirt, best guest you've ever had. Dr. Kelly putting things in perspective. I love it.
He's definitely a better guest than B-Dirt.
Yeah, I mean, you know, definitely better than B-Dirt, man. So, you know, before we actually wrap the subject up, do you have like one more thing that you would say, Doctor, about this whole subject, like something that an overall message that you would like to leave with everyone on this subject?
Yeah, I would definitely like to make sure that we follow the stats. I think the Tides report out of University of Central Florida, the race and gender scorecards, I just believe that they are right now the best resource for this topic, the best resources for comparing exactly what is happening in the industry with the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, even the NCAA. It has all the statistics on race and gender. And, you know, I think with this type of objective research, data set, and source, you know, the league is able to defend itself. And I think with the programming and the amount of resources, because my research is all about, you know, understanding the systemic racism and what is keeping minorities out of these, you know, top level positions. And the NFL has put the resources and the money behind it. They've committed to fixing this issue. And, you know, I'm as shocked as you guys are that it isn't a better representation and more inclusive. But I think, you know, it could be a simple twist. It could be a simple pivot in the resources and the programming that could lead to more opportunities. But the days of you being able to lack diversity are gone. I think, with cancel culture, you have no choice. Millennial, Gen Z consumers, they are requiring authenticity. And so if you want to find success, you have to be known as being inclusive.
Absolutely.
Hey, Dr. Daniel, I got one thing to ask you real quick. Do you believe that the Denver Broncos are going to move forward with the hiring of the black
that's what I was going to say. They're two candidates as far as ownership: Robert Smith and Byron Allen. That's what I couldn't remember what I was going to say.
Both of them paper up.
That's another thing that would help, though, to get some minority in ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, a few years ago, P. Diddy wanted to try and buy the Carolina Panthers. Didn't happen. There's been talk with Jay-Z in the franchise, and maybe they didn't want that hip hop element invited into their ownership groups. But now we have reputable businessmen with Robert Smith and Byron Allen, and maybe they should give one of those guys opportunity to own the Denver Broncos.
Right. And I just wanted him to speak to that to see does he think that's going to go down?
You know, we can always be hopeful. I think, you know, the best thing is that they will go through the vetting process towards becoming owners. And I think if they're giving the proper I think right now it behooves the NFL to really allow them to have the opportunity, because it still will come down to them wanting to invest in the NFL, and then it'll come down to the vote from the remaining owners. But I do think that at this time it is imperative that there is the opportunity and also the allowance and acceptance of a minority candidate as the owner, and especially a Black African American owner for the NFL.
Yes.
And they definitely got like I said, they definitely have the resources.
Yeah, the dude Robert Smith we talked about the other week, he has more net worth than like 26 of the NFL owners.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
I mean, with Viacom, BT, and all the things that he's done, man, buddy, whoo, he is papered up.
No, that's Robert Johnson you talking about. This Robert.
Oh, Robert Johnson. Yeah, no, Robert.
Yeah.
Different person.
Yeah.
Thank you. His name was Robert. That's all I know.
Yeah, you're right. And he rich. And he rich.
he real rich. Robert. Mrs. Johnson's favorite son. Listen, definitely, man. We gonna jump on this weekend. This I don't know what to call it. But let's put it like this: when we were kids, we were growing up, man. We got spoiled because we got an opportunity with the skills contest, and I actually thought it was a great rookie game. The rookie tournaments, I thought those were really good. They played some really good basketball. But with the skills challenge, man, I was really you didn't have a Steve Nash and then with the 3-point contest, Big Cat won it. I knew Sean was happy about that because he loved Big Cat. That's his guy. But the dunk contest was a snooze fest. I mean, it was kind of like, let's choose the lesser of the best. I mean, it was horrible. Guys, talk to me about that, man. How did y'all feel about this weekend festivities as far as the NBA All-Star weekend was concerned? Of course, we got the game coming, but how did you feel about it, Tate?
Hey, man, I'm the oldest here, man. So,
by 3 weeks. By 3 weeks.
But so as you speak to, I did like the format of the skills challenge yesterday. I like that. I like the way they did it. But the thing is, like you said, back when we were younger, I mean, I was seeing dudes like Jordan and Dominique and Dr. J and Larry in the dunk contest, big names. You know what I mean? And in today's game, the star players don't want to participate in these things. And I think that takes the interest in it and the excitement in it down a notch, because you're not getting those high level players competing against each other. Like, I mean, you remember a couple of those dunk contests with Dominique and Michael Jordan? Come on, man.
Listen, and we've never had. I mean, you didn't have like a Russell Westbrook or a LeBron James or what's my guy down there at the Grizzlies? He's on our intro.
John Morant.
John Morant. I mean, listen. These are with bunnies. Let's see somebody with actual helium in their legs just go and do something crazy. I don't know, man. I don't know. I see better dunkers coming from TikTok and Instagram than I have
on TikTok and Instagram. They not dunking live. They posted something up that somebody recorded that they did. So it's a lot easier to see a great dunk when you got to see these guys go live in front of 20,000 people and make a dunk under pressure live. I mean, so I also think the dunk contest is getting watered down over the years because we've seen every dunk possible pretty much. So the thing now is, what can you do in way of props, in way of things like that to try and boost the excitement about what you're doing, but it's not there.
Shonda said she remember when Dominique was cheated. Man,
clearly.
Listen, Daniel, what do you think, man? How did you feel about? Did you get a chance to watch the dunk contest and any of the skills challenges this weekend?
I did. I've always enjoyed NBA Saturday night. I think for me, that's like the showcase before we get to the actual All-Star game, which will happen in about an hour. You're right. I think similar to other sports leagues, especially as we superstars are playing longer or looking to extend their careers, I just think the NBA All-Star Game festivities sometimes become more of a liability, more so than like the showcase that it was originally meant to be. Guys like LeBron, this is LeBron's 19th season, so asking him to suit up for a dunk contest is pretty tough. But I did like the energy from the young guys, especially the Cleveland Cavaliers, the host team, who had a lot of their young stars playing really well and representing well yesterday in the activities. As far as a format for more fan engagement, the NBA is trying. Look at all the people who were out there yesterday for the celebrity game on Friday. Excuse me, yeah. And so what they're trying to do is get the engagement from millennial Gen Z consumers. They're actively engaging with the WNBA and also NBA 2K leagues. Everybody was there in Cleveland this weekend, and so I just think the dunk contest. It's been like the marquee event, but for some reason the last few years it just isn't working. And they even went a couple of years where they got rid of it, right? And I mean, people wanted it back. So I just think you definitely got to keep the dunk contest, and just got to figure out a way to entice some of the rookies and second year talent to compete in it and to be at a better caliber.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, dunking and Tim's, that's a hard thing. Tim's is not an easy thing for you to go out and hoop in. I mean, if you own a pair of butters and you ever put them on your feet, they ain't easy to hoop in them. It's really not. So going out and making a dunk in some butters,
that's what I'm saying, Mike. If he had came out and made his first dunk, it would have been great.
Hey, when that Joker landed, his feet was on fire. When he landed, his feet was on fire.
They was
6-inch weights. Hey, but listen, I got an idea for the dunk contest, man. I think this will work. I really believe this will work. I think that they need to go back to the format, one and done as far as the dunk. You get one chance. And I think that what they should also do is, like when you move past the second and the third round, you need to react a classic dunk that's already been done to see if you can make it, or iconic dunk that's been dunked in the dunk contest, to see if you can make it look just as good or better than a dunk that's already been done. Now, you got to have bunnies to do some of that stuff, because like some of the stuff Vince Carter did and some of the stuff Dominique did, the degree of difficulty is up there. But
he tried to do the arm and the wrist, the wrist in the goal, and that just didn't work. It didn't work out.
He don't have the helium. No helium.
Who was that?
Golden State Warriors guy. The Golden State Warriors.
Who?
I can't tell you his name. He played for the Golden State Warriors.
Tuscan Anderson. But exactly, that's what I'm talking about. We need some reputable name guys participating in this event to drum up the interest.
Who was that?
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if this year's dunk contest would have been if Zion was healthy, Ja Morant, Edwards from Minnesota, those three alone in the dunk contest? Oh my goodness, it probably been more watched, because I remember the 2016, which we all do, when you had Zach LaVine and Eric Gordon go at it.
Hey, that was one for the ages.
But I think if we could just keep that line of guys in the dunk contest, like Tate is saying, and you get an Edwards and you get a Zach LaVine and you get an Aaron Gordon and a Zion Williamson and a Ja Morant, these kids have explosive helium in their calves. So we can get, like Tate said, we can get them in. It's going to make, because that's what made the 3-point contest sort of interesting. Even though it wasn't the top Currys and Klay Thompsons and Devin Booker, there were still headliners in that thing that people watched and interest with. So, I think that's what's really got to happen moving forward.
I like that.
Is the 3-point contest now the marquee event of Saturday night?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
I think so. I would agree. What about having a legend come back, like a Ray Allen? Having somebody like a Ray Allen or Reggie, outshoot one of them. That wouldn't that be good, entertaining TV?
Yeah.
It would drive that name interest, but I don't think Ray and Reggie Miller is ready to compete against these guys. It's not what they're doing now, man. These jokers like mid-40s and early 50s. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, if you can still do it, you come out and pull a couple, and
But
just
now a thing could be have a team, have an Indiana Pacer with Reggie Miller, have Dale Curry with Steph Curry. Do something like that. The Shooting Legends or something like that, and combine it like that. You might get some interest in something like that.
I think that would be good. What do you think about that, Dr. Daniel? What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I do like it. I just know, Reggie Miller's looking a little old these days. I like Reggie. I think Ray Allen, he's still cycling all over the country. I think he might be still in shape. He could probably do it though.
Yeah. I think Reggie Miller probably offended some of the younger people listening last night. He kept talking about Generation Z and the millennials like they soft and everything, man.
I was like, wow, Reggie. But
I'm sure Reggie was getting some Twitter flack.
Yeah, Reggie is he's known for he's an habitual line stepper. That's what they call him. He just continue to do that, man. He's gonna run his mouth. That's what he's gonna do. And speaking of running their mouth, wow, did we get a chance to see the Wisconsin coach and the Michigan coach, Juwan Howard, get into it today? That was kind of crazy. G, tell us what happened, man.
Few seconds left in the game. Wisconsin's head coach calls timeout, subs, brings in a bunch of players. They're up 14, right? So Juwan basically tells his players back up or back off, right? The guy goes in, gets a crowd shaking dunk, where everybody got hyped. And Juwan's like, man, what's going on? So they go to the traditional after the game, shaking their hands where they line up. Juwan walks by the Wisconsin coach like, hey, good game, but you could tell he was ticked. The Wisconsin coach grabs Juwan by his elbow and puts his finger in his face. And Juwan, in turn, puts his finger in his face like, hey, man, you don't grab me and touch me. And it escalated, and it escalated, and the next thing you know, Juwan Howard cracks one of the Wisconsin head coaches in the mouth. And that turns into a straight-up brawl between the Michigan Wolverine basketball players and Wisconsin basketball players. That's the gist of it. There's been all kind of stuff circulating as far as maybe racial things was said and why is Juwan in trouble and the Wisconsin coach not in trouble for grabbing the guy. There's a lot going on that's got to unpack, but
and I think it does need to be unpacked. And I think that since we have, we definitely got film and footage of what happened. I think it needs to be explored. I don't think it's ever okay, coaches, players, whatever. I don't think it's ever okay for you to lay your hands on another man at all. I don't think it's ever okay, right? And we got this rule in football where if they see you do it, you're gonna get reprimanded for it, right? So they saw him grab him, and that's what started the whole thing. Now, swinging, hey man, you're professional. Can't really swing like that. Your life wasn't in danger. I get it. I understand Juwan come from, Chicago. It's a whole other life. It's a whole other life. But you're far away from that, though. So,
I'm looking at it right now. My first time seeing it. It looked like the Wisconsin coach tried to make Juwan Howard shake his hand.
Yeah, that's exactly. He grabbed him by his elbow. He grabbed him by his elbow.
He grabbed him by his elbow. He grabbed him by his arm, and he stopped. Like I said, it's never okay for you to do that. Mm-hmm. If somebody don't want to shake your hand, you move on. You know what I mean? It's not, I can't force you to do something that I want you to do. That's like the scene in Django. You can't leave here unless you shake my hand. No, I'm not shaking your hand. You're not going to make me do this. It's one of those things that I don't get it and I don't understand. But talk to me, Dr. Daniel, did you get a chance to see it?
I did get a chance to see it, and I was actually blown away because like you mentioned, just because it's a unspoken rule doesn't mean that it has to be enforced at all times. And especially you can't force someone physically to shake your hand. And I was surprised. The way it escalated, though, really threw me off guard because there was something that was said between the assistant coach and Juwan Howard for him to have that kind of visceral reaction, which was, You know, unlike him, if you ever followed, you know, Juwan Howard since he's been at Michigan, or even beforehand with the Miami Heat, I mean, he's the NBA's gentleman. I mean, he is cool, calm, collected, respectful, and is well liked by everyone. So, what in the world could have that coach have said to him to make him respond that way?
Whatever he said, I don't think he should say it anymore.
Do y'all think it's an element? Do you think what happened if it was the other way around? Do we think it's an element of white privilege in that? I mean, as far as this guy think he just put his hands on somebody and make you shake your hand?
I'm not gonna jump on the race train. I'm not gonna do that. What I am gonna say is there's this whole like Dr. Dane just said, you know, there's this, hey, it's tradition, you gonna shake my hand kind of thing. But I remember when Michael didn't shake Isaiah's hand, because Isaiah and them just left and walked into the locker room. People have these instances where it's like, hey man, look, I'm not gonna do this. But you know, older people are like, yo, you're not gonna disrespect me like that. It's disrespectful. And maybe he felt that way. But I'm with Dr. Daniel. The assistant coach is where the real problem came in. That's where the real problem, because he came over and he said something that he should not have said. Because I mean, think about it. I've never seen Juwan go off like that. I've never seen him go off like, and I've been watching him since he was playing at Michigan, because of course Ray Jack, one of my good friends of the program, definitely went there and they played with him, and I ain't never seen him go off like that. So something was said.
But Mott, I don't agree with that. I believe what Tate brought up, and the reason why I believe in the empowerment of is because the assistant coach is going to follow what the head coach did. The head coach disrespected Juwan. So now he felt like, oh, well, my coach did it, so I can do it. You know, the next generation always follows the one in front of it. So the issue could have been spoken to what you said, Tate, of ours privilege. You know, this guy felt like, oh, you're not going to walk by me and not shake my hand, from a privilege standpoint, which in turn empowered his assistant coach. You know, an assistant coach just might have flared up and said something, which I hope the investigation
we don't
showed.
know that for sure. Yeah. We don't know that. That's speculation, G. And you got to stay away from speculation, because we don't know that for sure.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out for sure.
Oh, yeah, we definitely going to find out. Yeah.
I just want to say, if we, any of us talking to Big G and Ma, we together, and, you know, I put my fist up for a fist bump, but y'all don't hit my fist, I'm stealing on y'all. I just want y'all to know that. Period, point blank.
That's what we doing? That's what we doing, man. Golly. Dr. Daniel, you see what I got to put up with, man. You see what I had to put up with here, man. Definitely. Hey, say, so we talked about this briefly, and I want to hit it because we got Steeler fans here. How pivotal, how good of a hire was this with Brian Flores being hired at the Pittsburgh Steelers? How do you, football-wise, X's and O's wise, was this a good hire for you guys? Talk to me about it.
It's a home run, man. It's a home run. I mean, to get that defensive mind in the room with head coaching experience, and you know, it seems like the players in Miami loved him. The players,
yeah,
you know what I mean. So to bring him in the room with Mike Tomlin, who's already a great defensive mind, I believe in Terrell Austin, who is another African American coordinator who they just hired, who's been in the room on the staff for about 3-4 years.
Absolutely,
but has defensive coordinator experience. And with the players that the Steelers have, Cam Hayward, T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, I mean, he's going to coach the linebackers. Devin Bush had a falling off year, but he was coming back from an ACL injury. So, I mean, just what he can do with that group and the overall defense, I think it's a great hire.
Right. And then check this out. The Steelers, me and Tate talked about this yesterday. We're in the top 7 as far as cap space and cap room. And if we don't re-sign Juju, we move maybe in the top 5 as far as cap space available. Don't be shocked if some of those disgruntled Miami Dolphin players that had love for Brian Flores all of a sudden just trickles right over into the Pittsburgh Steelers and becomes part of that culture of that defense.
And I say this, being a lifelong Pittsburgh Steelers fan, we often hear, Big G, you know it too, fire Tomlin. Why fire Tomlin? We've already said he's never had to lose a season. Never. I mean, his players love him. He was voted at the Pro Bowl by the Pro Bowl players. Coach most wanted to play for.
Correct.
Mike Tomlin.
Correct.
But then, you don't hear Seattle fans saying fire Pete Carroll, or nor did you hear Saints fans say fire Sean Payton. With all with similar kind of credentials. So it's speculation again, Mod. But I think that has to do with race. And Pittsburgh Steelers fans will lose their mind if we trade for, say, Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, if we have a black quarterback, or they hire Louis Riddick as general manager. And
I hope they hire him. I hope we hire Louis. I hope we hire Louis Riddick, because it's not just the fact of him being a minority. Man, this guy's brain and IQ, the ESPN don't got him on there by accident. They know exactly what this dude is capable of doing as far as understanding, analyzing, and bringing in talent.
What do you think about Louis Riddick, Daniel?
I like him a lot. I think probably one of the brightest football minds right now. On television, in the sport, I think the fact that if there's interest, it should be a no-brainer to bring him on board.
Right. But the one that's going to have everybody sick.
But wait about this. Hold on, G. So what did you think, X's and O's wise, what did you think about the Flores hire for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dr. Daniel?
Well, let's not get it twisted. If Brian Flores couldn't coach, we're not having this conversation. And I think Pittsburgh Steelers are not into the politics. I mean, they're into wins. And they believe that by making this move, they're going to win a championship next year. They're going for it. I mean, that's the only way you justify making this move, is that you're going to win. And so, I say politics aside, I've never known the Steelers organization to be politically, active. And even the bottom line is Tomlin was not a political hire. He was hired to win football games. Flores was hired to win football games. That's the bottom line.
Love it. Love it. All right, you guys, it's time for closing shots, man. It's time for closing shots. Definitely, we had some parting shots. Tate, go ahead, man. I'll let you start it off, man.
No, I'm going to hurry up and get out of here. Get out of here with you guys. Go watch the All-Star game, man. So who you got between Team KD and Team LeBron? I'm going Team LBJ.
You know what, man? I'm going Team LBJ just because of how they picked the teams, and that whole debacle was hilarious. And I'm going Team LBJ.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I'm going to go with Team LBJ, but with a caveat. LeBron's going to win the MVP in Cleveland.
Oh,
that's good.
I like that one too. Not quite as a hot take as my Darius Garland,
but who
plays for Team LBJ though.
Yeah, but exactly.
Well, LeBron did say, he counted himself as a Cav.
He did. He sure did. I saw that.
He counted himself as a Cavaliers. So
yeah, he been at home this weekend dropping a whole bunch of soul hints about maybe wanting to come back now that we got all this good young talent, and he over there struggling with all them old heads.
Who you got, G?
Man, either way, it's just going to be entertaining. It's an exhibition game. I would like to see Team LeBron win. But you know what, G, usually it's an exhibition game. But last year, just like the rookie game, the Rising Stars, they play to a target score now. And like on the playground, when you playing the 21, win by 2, or whatever,
it gets serious.
You get serious, bro.
It gets serious.
Yeah.
Hey,
I would like to see them change up and go to like how they did with the format of the 4 teams and them playing a tournament like that for the All-Star.
That would be cool too.
But that's not my parting shot. My parting shot is the Big G burner. We've already done one.
Well, we haven't got to that yet. We just asking who's winning. Come on, G.
Yeah.
I'm going to win the game.
Team LeBron. Okay. Of course I'm going to cheer for LeBron.
So now you're ready for your parting shot. Go ahead and give your
parting shot is this. I've already talked about it on the Big G burners once, right? Deshaun Watson has been tied to Mike Flores forever, right? Deshaun Watson, if the Pittsburgh Steelers do one of these 2 things, we are in contention to win our division and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Spend the money to get defensive and offensive linemen, and or trade for Deshaun Watson, or trade up for Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty University. Any of those moves, Malik Willis or Deshaun Watson at quarterback in Pittsburgh, with our money spent in free agency on offensive linemen will put us in position to be contending for the AFC Championship game and possible Super Bowl run from Pittsburgh. Mark it down on your calendar.
As always, a big burner from Big G. You know what I'm saying? A big burner from Big G.
Big hefty burner. He gonna burn the building down.
He was gonna burn
it
down.
up. Burn it up.
Pardon shot, Tate.
Oh man, I mean, you know, I just want to thank Daniel, Dr. Daniel, for coming on and joining us, man. You've been a great guest, man, representing Miami, Ohio. Ohio? Is Big Ben the best athlete to ever come from Miami of Ohio?
I got to go with Wally Zerbiak or
Big Ben.
Yeah, Ron Harper or Wally Zerbiak. Maybe Ron Harper.
Ron Harper.
Too.
I would say Ron Harper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Did I phrase that question wrong? I mean, did Wally Zerbiak and Ron Harper didn't have the career that Big Ben did post Miami of Ohio?
I mean, I'm counting the Miami days too, like the wins at Miami. I'm counting also, you know, let's not forget Wally Zerbiak was Wally World at one point.
Wally was a beast. Yeah, he was a beast.
Big time.
How many championships Ron Harper got? He got 3.
3, yeah, I would say, I think.
No, 4. He got one in LA too.
Yeah. I mean, that's just as good as Big Ben, man. I don't understand, man.
Ron Harper on the NBA scale of player is not what Big Ben is on NFL scale player. Now, you know,
which is fair, but not to say that Ron Harper wasn't. He put Miami, Ohio on the map.
Yeah, he did, and he was a Cleveland Cavalier early and was real good.
Yeah, Cleveland, he was a dog. He was with Mark Price and Brad Daugherty. He was a dog. He was a dog for real. So, pardon shots, Dr. Daniel. What you got, man?
No, definitely want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak on this subject matter. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for 20 years, and you know, I really feel like we're close. It's just, you know, a couple of pivots, but I mean, I want to thank you for the platform to be able to continue to share this conversation and continue to spark interest in advocacy, activism, and of course, the E&I. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I think this is a needed dialogue to continue to control the narrative, so the narrative won't be stole. You know, in the off season, and you know, people try to control what we see and what we hear. I think as long as we continue to keep it, like you said, as long as we continue to keep it in the forefront, things have to change. But once again, we appreciate you guys with rocking with us, and definitely make sure you like us on Facebook. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. Every time that we go live, you will get those notifications. We got some giveaways that we're getting ready to do here pretty soon. And we appreciate you guys for rocking with us here at the KnoItAllz. And we'll see you guys next week. We out. Peace.